Rudyard Griffiths here, the publisher of The Hub. Welcome to this, our continuing video series, Trump's Trade War. Each and every day, we're going to bring you the analysis and insights of some of our best commentators and thinkers. And today we've got on the program Theo Argyris. He's at Compass Rose, and he's writing a fantastic newsletter, Ways and Means. We've published some of it in The Hub this week. Theo, how are you doing?
I'm well, Rudyard. How are you? Good
Excellent.
morning.
Let's dig into your piece that we published this week at www.thehub.ca, kind of looking at a bunch of different dimensions of this trade crisis that Canada now faces. And I want to come to the second part of your article first. That's where you talk about the next 30 days and what we need to do within this period of time. So give us a sense of what your prescription is, and then your sense of conviction that we're actually going to do something substantive in the next 30 days to potentially prepare or hopefully push back against the threat of tariffs from the Trump administration.
Yeah, I think we just take a Trump kind of literally or at face value in this case and kind of think of it in two parts. One, we have the border issue that obviously he feels strongly about and threatened us with tariffs over. We have this 30-day reprieve. I would be very surprised the Trudeau government has come to some type of agreement. I would be very surprised if somehow we didn't follow through to his satisfaction and we are facing 25% tariffs at the end of February. I think we need to be very careful as we deal with that particular issue and just trying to address some of his concerns. I think the bigger question or the date I'm looking at, Rudyard, is April 1st. That's when those reviews, the America First trade policy reviews are due to come in. And that's what really will inform kind of truly tariff and trade policy vis-a-vis Canada, Mexico, and other countries as well. And I still believe, I still have the expectation that despite all the bluster, all the threats and negotiating tactics by Trump, I think we're still going to see a lot of change coming, but I think it's more likely to be orderly rather than this chaos that we saw over the weekend.
Yeah, so just to unpack what you said there for listeners, we've got February 1st, which is some arbitrary deadline the president has created, this reprieve. But then April 1st, which is this report back by Commerce, his Commerce Secretary and others about implementation. Theo, do you have a worry that come April 1, not just Canada, but everyone could be seeing some kind of global tariff, some kind of blanket tariff? Because I've always had at the top of my mind the revenue problems that the United States has right now. Their fiscal position is pressured. Trump wants to extend his tax cuts from 2017 to the cost of trillions of dollars, make them permanent. What do you think the likelihood, maybe that this all ends up with, yes, a smaller tariff, but a tariff nonetheless come the spring?
Yeah, it's very possible that we do see kind of a global tariff of some sort. I mean, they actually are talking about that in that executive order to kind of examine the possibility of having an across-the-board tariff for the U.S. Or it could be something more targeted, around steel and aluminum or other products, or it could be kind of non-tariff concessions coming, such as greater access to certain markets in Canada. But clearly, we are going to see some change coming. And one of the kind of objectives of that article you're talking about is, challenging Canadian policymakers to kind of think about it really kind of more deeply, maybe less emotionally, more pragmatically, because if we aren't singled out and if it isn't a disastrous tariff or change or totally unreasonable, threatening or insulting, then, is that a trade war? Do we react the same way no matter what Trump does? And I think these are important questions that we need to think about and we need to address. That's kind of the short-term, medium-term kind of issue. We are going to get tariffs. The longer-term issue is basically, what you're seeing here is obviously a U.S. Uh, government, and it's not just a Republican thing. It's not just a Trump thing. You're seeing this kind of longer-term structural trend of an American economy that is looking more inward. It's becoming more protectionist. And what that means for us long term, I think essentially the status quo is not going to is not available to us anymore, and we're going to have two options. One is obviously, be less dependent, more isolated ourselves. People are talking about maybe diversifying with other countries. I see that as a very challenging prospect, even though it's a good idea. We've shown no evidence as a nation, as a trading nation, that we actually can diversify. So, based on a historical record, I'm not very confident we can do it. Or just given how big the American economy is, the gravitational forces will naturally pull us closer into the U.S. as well. And we're going to have to have that debate, given those gravitational forces, given the costs associated with being more isolated ourselves, whether we actually may want to consider having a deeper economic integration with the U.S. And I'm not talking about annexation or anything like that. I'm talking about, something a little bit more than USMCA, and whether that in the longer term allows us to be, in a way, exempt from some of the protectionism we're seeing in the U.S. right now. I think that's an important debate to have. I'm not suggesting one way or the other, which way we should go. It'll be a tough conversation to have right now in the middle of kind of all of this trade war rhetoric. It's, probably not the right time to have that conversation, over the next few weeks. But I think it's a conversation we need to have, and we can't rule out totally the possibility that one option for us as a nation is actually deeper integration with the U.S.
Yeah. Well, let's end on that note. As we do, we'll pull up on the screen here a quote from your article about just that, two forks. So, Theo, I mean, to what extent do you think policymakers, with the mood in the country being very raw, I agree with you. I think we need a cold, kind of hard calculus here to understand when we hit this fork, and one is to seek greater integration with the United States to avoid what is an increasingly dysfunctional bilateral relationship. And I think we can say that's not going to go away necessarily, even with Trump. Humpty Dumpty was broken over the weekend. I'm not sure if we can put him back together again in terms of a trusting bilateral relationship. So if we hit that fork, Theo, to what extent do you think our political class is willing to consider deeper integration? It seems like all the political instinct right now is to go down the other fork, which is, Canada first. I agree with you, a challenging path towards trade diversification, towards greater autonomy and independence of the Canadian economy. Where do you think we're going to come down if we're really pushed, if we really have to face this proverbial fork in the road that you're writing about in the Hub?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's a very charged environment now, largely triggered by Trump's really unreasonable and insulting behavior towards us. But as well, we're in an election cycle. So everyone's going to want to stand up to Trump. No one is going to want to, show any weakness there. And so you're going to pretty much see a consensus around that. So I don't think it's going to happen now. That's this conversation, and maybe it's the path we're going to take is maybe towards more independence and maybe efforts to diversify our trade, and then at one point maybe when the storm passes, maybe it's going to be a different government in the U.S. in 4 years from now, and it'll be easier to negotiate with that government, and then we realize kind of the cost of being independent, or we fail to diversify, then the options available to us may look a little bit different in 3-4 years from now than they do right now. The one thing I would say, though, is that what the kind of debate we're seeing now around the issue of investment, around getting things built, in Canada, building energy infrastructure, building those transportation corridors. I mean, that's a good conversation
Yep.
to have. And if one good thing has emerged from this is that we are focusing on our economy, we are focusing on our competitiveness, and no matter how things unfold in terms of our trading relationships going forward, at the very least, we can all agree that we need to do a better job at making our domestic economy more competitive.
Well said, Theo Argytis, Compass Rose, veteran reporter, previous at that at Bloomberg. We really appreciate your analysis and insights. Thank you for coming on the program today.
Thank you, really did.
Well, that wraps up our program today. We hope you enjoyed it. You can check out all kinds of great videos on thehub.ca as part of this YouTube series, Trump's Trade War. We'll be back at you with more videos. Please subscribe to this channel and check out The Hub, www.thehub.ca. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.